Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano live stream, and a little bit different today. It is in relation to the 3UTxO team and the document that came out yesterday, but it was a leaked document of their future proposal for the Cardano Treasury to set up, I suppose, a kind of a VC fund within Cardano, but we're going to get into all of that. The document, I will leave links below to the tweet that went out, but do keep in mind that that is 6 months old, the team have said now, and it wasn't meant for the public yet. It does detail what the project is going to be about. I'm going to hand it over to the team in a few minutes now just to go through what it is. Any questions you guys have? There was a lot of questions across social media, which I have taken a list of here, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on the comment section. So if you have any questions for the team or about this, then do let me know. I've seen some people comment as well that we shouldn't do streams. This should be just let go away. But I think even outside of this proposal, this is the first of many big proposals we're going to see for the Cardano Treasury. So I think it's a really important thing to kick off these types of conversations now before we get to the point of where they can be funded. Like we're at least 6, maybe 12 months before funding will really start to come out of the Treasury. So having these conversations kicked off now is a good thing for Cardano overall to see what's going to be going. Give the video a like, share it out. The more people we get in here, the better the discussion we can have. We're going to aim for about the hour, depending on questions. But guys, you're very welcome. Thanks very much for coming on. I appreciate you coming on. It's been a bit of a crazy 48 hours, I'd say, for ye with the unexpected leak of the document. Well, first up, do you want to, I've seen some people saying about do you want to give the introduction to who or what 3UTxO is, and then we'll give introductions to yourselves, because I know some people were saying they don't know who the team are. The team is anonymous. So we can cover both. I don't know who wants to kick off with a high-level introduction to what the project is.
Yeah, let me quickly introduce 3UTxO. And I think we have seen that the labels centralized VC fund was taken. Look, in the end, what we want to build in one punchline is a semi-decentralized VC fund where the due diligence, and a good due diligence, has been done before to check on teams, check on tech, check on business, check on valuation, and check on these key metrics before it's going out there for the community to decide, versus funding we raised from the treasury got allocated. That's it. That's 3UTxO. That was the initial idea. And who is behind it? Look, I think we have Yuri here. He will introduce himself in a moment, but also Simon. But let me start with myself very briefly. So I'm the co-founder of Neum. I think a lot of people might know me. I'm Florian. I'm also the co-CEO there. And I'm building on Cardano for over 3 years now. My background actually is a tech background mixed with accounting and MBA, and then I worked in a single family office, single LP venture fund to invest into startups. But I realized during this time, look, I'm missing a lot of operational and founder experience, and this is when I looked out for a new endeavor. And on the way there, I met my co-founder at Neum, Ryan, and decided, look, that's something tackling, and that's a big problem. And this is how we started Neum. But I think here today it's more about 3UTxO, and we should do a quick introduction round. So Yuri, because you are a partner of this, I think you should be next, and then Simon should be also introduce himself because he's an advisor of what we are building. Go ahead, Yuri.
Okay, thank you, Florian, and thank you, Paul, for having us. It's been quite eventful. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Yuri Browner. I'm from Belgium originally, but I've lived 20 years in Hong Kong. I'm 35 years old, and I'm the CEO of Waffle Capital. What we do, we're a hedge fund that is solely focused on Cardano, specifically Cardano DeFi. We're not a VC. And basically what we do is yield farm for our investors. Our investors are mostly high net worth individuals who are not part of necessarily Cardano or any other blockchain, who are looking to get exposure in the cryptocurrency industry. And it is my job to tell them that Cardano is a great option and to bring them onto this ecosystem. This is what we've been doing. We've incorporated in April of 2022. Myself, I must say, I've been part of Cardano since 2017, October or November, I don't remember. So I've been there quite a long time, actually. We also have a stake pool, that is the Waffle stake pool. We've produced over 11,000 blocks, I believe. And then finally, recently, we've started also through Catalyst raising some funds to raise awareness about Cardano in Hong Kong. And I think we'll have some time to talk a little bit more about why it's significant that I'm here and why Hong Kong has to do with all of this and the environment in which I operate. That's it. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you very much. I'm Simon, one of the co-founders of Cerberus. What we do at Cerberus is primarily risk ratings, which is a tool which is designed for professional investors to better understand the token landscape of Cardano. And also in that work, we have talked to many hedge funds and presented them Cardano. And I am an advisor because Florian came to me early on and was saying, hey, we're building this thing and it shall be very institutional. You have talked and have a lot of connections to institutions. Why don't advise? And so that I ended up in this round, and I'm very glad to be here.
And also what we have to add there, why I reached out to Simon, I think this is very important, because with him at Cerberus, we want to track where the money goes. Look, transparency is important for us, and we are building this. And this is why also I reached out to Simon, because we need to know what's happened with the funds if we or if the community in the end decides to invest into startups. Just as a side note. But I think, why is it important? I think the why do we believe Cardano needs what we want to build funded through the treasury? Look, we believe Cardano has a lack of liquidity. We have a lot of great projects. We have a lot of founders. We have a lot of builders. We have a lot of developers who are building great stuff. But what we are realizing, and also through my personal experience, by talking with a lot of VCs, and I think we have seen this in some of the comments, oh, VCs are out for profits. Look, I agree to this, that they might be out here for profit. They want to make profit because this is how they are created. But this doesn't mean that we might not need them, because we as founders, we need liquidity for our projects to get built. We need funding to pay developers a good salary. Otherwise, they're looking somewhere else to make an extra buck, or they just help out projects on the side. But if they do so, we are not competitive as a Cardano community. We are not, because suddenly we're just a hobby to all of these. They want to help in their free time because they have a 60-hour job during the week. Look, what is the progress? How fast can we build? How fast can we move? Look, Cardano is in a state where projects can build on top of it. And that's great. And now it's on the project to be competitive. How competitive can you be if our competitors on other chains are raising 10 times the funding? I think that's a question of scale. And then we see it already that big projects are moving away of Cardano because of lack of liquidity. Do we want to let them go? And I say to this is why I started this. No, there is a solution to it. Let's start something. Let's have a discussion how we can solve this problem, because in the end, this is something which is very critical for all of us who are building on this network and who are participating in this on Cardano.
Okay, thanks for all the introductions. I see lots of comments starting to come in already. Hosky, I see your comments. I have them marked. Anyone else do leave your comments below. I'm just going to go through a few things first, and then we're going to get to all of the questions just to kind of lay the groundwork for where this is, what came out yesterday. So a lot of this came out from the document that surfaced on Twitter yesterday. I have heard that it's been in different Discords before that, but hadn't kind of been shared out publicly since. Just when we're talking about the team. So in the document, these were the advisors. And just to clarify, this is 6 months old. I have seen Adam has been questioned about his links with ICC and with being a part of this. As far as I'm aware, he has had to step away due to the conflict. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. Yes. Though also Andrew Rosberg is not on the advisory team as well. This is really 6 months old. We had these conversations with the people. They had their reasons because of conflict of interests, and I think that's a fair point. This is exactly why we are talking with people, and this is why we are a little bit also upset about the leak, because it shines a bad light on these people, where we are already solving these conflict of interests because we are building it at the go. Look, we are all here on Cardano. I'm co-CEO of New. Yuri is a CEO of Waffle Capital. Simon here is CEO of Cerberus. So it's not a full-time job that we are building it right now, but we want to build it because we believe it's needed. And though these conflict of interests are happening, and will get resolved as said, because personally, I hate conflicts of interest, and we will have processes in place at 3UTxO to encounter them, because this is something we have to do. It's compliance.
Yeah, I suppose that's one thing I've seen in the community as well, is conflicts of interest. All of you are linked to other projects within Cardano, and some of the advisors or maybe future advisors will be linked to projects as well. Can them projects get funding through this? If you guys were funded through the Treasury, can your other connected projects get funding through this?
So allow me to answer this. The short answer is no. And then there was debate over how long that period would be. 6 months, 2 years, 5 years. That's why this has been on ongoing discussion. So the answer is no, actually. If you're on this team, you cannot, your other ventures can absolutely not either receive funds for management or receive funds for building a project. That is an absolutely no-go. On top of it, there were talks about how do you ensure that, of course, if all the people who are on the team, advisory or otherwise, have their own project, how do you ensure against a potential competitor as well? So who's going to do the due diligence? So there were processes that were being discussed for that. So no.
Okay, that's good to hear. And on the leak, was this given out to many teams, or do you know where the leak came from? Were they under NDA, or was it just a trust thing?
So most of the time, most of the people had signed an NDA. Lots of founders have seen this because it's been ongoing discussion. We were gathering endorsement and support and feedback from everybody as to what was needed for the community, essentially. So yes, a lot of founders have seen this. And as for the leak, I don't know. I'm not necessarily going to comment on that. I mean, that's for the people who've done it to basically come out themselves.
I think something to add here, we know where it's coming from, but we don't want to mention them in public because it doesn't matter. It's a good opportunity to have a conversation with the community of what we want to build. Look, we are in talks with a lot of founders. The only bad thing for us is now some people might be not happy that we reached out to them not earlier to get earlier feedback, but this is it as it is because we don't have so much time on our hand. We still have companies to run, though we do this in our free time to get feedback, to collect it, to talk to founders. And I know all the founders have a busy schedule as well, though sometimes it takes a while. And we talk to a lot of founders and encountered they have the same problem. They They realize, they know that the Cardano lacks of liquidity. That's what it is.
Yeah, I want to jump in actually as a founder, if I may. I think that for everybody who works on Cardano, we know that we have an incredible technology at hand. We have extremely powerful teams. We have an extremely strong community, and yet there's these moments where I think also a lot of the investor communities are just astonished, right? Like you have this news where projects, you know, leave the market, or this always returning, hey, why can we not list it on a central exchange? Like, where's the problem? And when you look at it, and that's really why we joined, and when Florian came to me and pitched me the idea, I said, no, fundamentally, like, take away the details, right? Just fundamentally, the idea that we use the treasury money to provide liquidity and investments on the Cardano blockchain is extremely powerful, because that is really the root challenge that we have, right? That is a centralized exchange. Before they list your tokens, they look at the liquidity pools, right? And you see 2 million, 10 million, that sounds a lot, until you go over to other blockchains and you see numbers who are much larger than that. And that's really where we have a bit of a catch up to do. And the idea that, hey, now as we have governance, maybe we can come together as a community, can address one problem that a lot of people are irritated about, seems very wise to do. And I think that's when the people watch this live stream, that I mean, there's been many things said, but I think the most important is let's remember what we're trying to solve here. Like the details, who does it, how, right? That's all up for debate, right? Like that's not that's why it was not published yet, because no, it's absolutely not clear how. It's really about, do we want to address the liquidity issue on Cardano with the 1.8 billion ADA that we have on hand, or don't? And I think liquidity is such an essential issue that, again, it doesn't need to be 3UTxO, it doesn't need to be anybody on this panel, but we need to solve that problem. And I think the best people should solve it. And when we solve it, we will have made gigantic strides for adoption. And also, can we afford not to solve the problem? So that is really my question. Can we afford not to solve the problem? Yeah, you were jumping.
Yeah, I need to speak a little about my own experience and how I even got to be in this project in the first place. Because as Waffle Capital, we weren't necessarily known to the public in Cardano, and why should we? I mean, we have our own investors who we're accountable to. We're not, you know, we have our own operations, and they don't involve selling any tokens or promoting anything on Twitter. But people started to get to know us when we came to the summit last year. And as soon as people got to hear about us, they saw the name Capital after Waffle. So all of a sudden, I started to receive a mountain of decks, people who were looking for funding in the Cardano ecosystem, right? Oh, you're a Cardano fund, please, you know, please. So I said, look, we're not a fund, we're not a VC, we're a hedge fund, but I'm in Hong Kong, and I'll see what I can do for you. And why do I say I'm in Hong Kong is because this is, for those who don't know, this is a finance city, third largest finance city in the world after New York and London. This city has 60 billionaires, and 1 person out of 7 is a millionaire, and we're all cramped in a very small area. So I mean, so I started to look and help Cardano projects, and I won't name them here, but those of you, and there's a lot of them, you know who you are. I've been trying to get them together with VCs, and every single time VCs are not interested in Cardano, or some VCs said to me, look, actually, this is something we could do. We've done it in the past. Usually we invest together with the foundation, whether it's a Solana, an Avalanche, you name it. So they said, can we get the contacts of Cardano Foundation? We'd like to see if they want to co-invest with us. That'll be a good, you know, stamp of approval. So I put them in touch, knowing already that the Cardano Foundation doesn't invest, which is fair because they've got their own concerns with staying neutral. That's fair enough. But what happens in the end is that, well, no one gets funded. So I've been trying. I was trying just on my own. I mean, as Waffle Capital, the whole team, we were trying to put people together. And eventually, that's when Simon reached out to me and said, hey, you know, I know you've been helping some people out. There's this guy, Florian, he's doing something interesting, might be of interest to you. What projects Project Cardano have we invested in? No, we don't invest in projects. We definitely provide liquidity, and we use some of the tools that are built by the DeFi projects. So definitely a bunch of opt-in bonds, definitely some Fluid tokens, boosted stake, because that was pretty easy, some Shen play, some Indigo play, tiny bit, like maybe 0.5% on meme. What else? A bunch of things like that. But we don't VC in the companies. That's not in our mandate.
So there's a common theme in some of the questions, and if I look like I'm distracted, I'm looking through trying to pick out the questions.
Yeah.
Hosky asked it here, and there's a few other ones in around your own projects that you're involved with Noom and that as well, is what have the team as a whole delivered in the past that has been profitable businesses? And there was another one in around, as your time as VC, Florian, projects that you invested in that would have been profitable. I think this all links back to how will you guys pick profitable businesses if you got this funds? How would you be picking them? So just your own history of picking profitable businesses first.
Like, I think what is important is that our investment process, like we are working on this, and the investment process will be up for debate as well. We're creating right now a scoring system. And I think this is something which need the feedback from the community as well, because I strongly believe, look, this is why we have so much founders. It's always a team effort. It cannot be what you can achieve alone. I think the question is, what can you achieve as a group? And this is why we have advisors, why we talk to founders.
Yeah, and I want to jump in because I think the question is not fair. But this is not a pitch about $200 million, 200 million ADA giving to Florian. That's not the pitch, right? Nobody thought that these guys here are an investment committee. There's a group of people who thought, okay, how could it look like? Right? How could the organ, the institutions be designed, right? Like if you come out from this proposal and think, oh, there's 6 guys who pitched to get 200 million ADA into the wallet, you've misunderstood it, right? This is the idea. How could we build a new organ, right? To how could the governance of Cardano get an arm, an investment arm? That investment arm belongs to Cardano, not to the guys on the team, right? Like we are just thinking about it, how it could look like. And this is again why it was half-baked when it came out. And there's another answer that because it picked out in the comments, and I just wanna mention it. Some people were saying, oh, is it really true that Cardano projects get less funding? And I just want to put up some numbers, because maybe when you're a user of crypto, you don't see the big differences, right? But everybody wants to have Circle on Cardano. Why do you guys want to have Circle? Your Circle raised $400 million, and they have been scaling to market dominance. If we could give significant investments to our own stablecoins, right, to our own institutions, right, we could create similar things. And then it's not, then, you know, should it not be that other chains beg us to use our infrastructure? Could we not build our own stablecoin and scale it over Latin America? Like the question is, how big do you want to dream, right? And the money is there to have big dreams. And I think what we have to be really careful not to, you know, this is not a meme. I mean, a lot of people try to break it down into memes, but it's not that simple, right? It's really, can we come together and make a proposal that the Cardano governance, not this team here, the Cardano governance gets an investment arm? And if I ask me personally, if we have that much money in treasury, I think it would pay many, many times off if we make wise investments. Who makes these wise investments? How are the projects are chosen? What are the guardrails? What are the accountabilities? It's not ready yet, right? Like this is just an idea. And I think if you take something out from this live stream or this proposal, I think is one thing. Could we address the liquidity issue? If yes, could we do it with governance? How would it look like? Let's have a conversation about that. And then I think another comment was that commenting that liquidity should come from outside. It's kind of true. It would be better to have it from outside, but it's also not entirely true, right? You can just pack tokens against ADA and have massive liquidity, right? So it is possible to do it internally. And the question is, we can kick off a flywheel, right? You guys, when you have been here for a long time, you remember this 200 million Africa fund that was once announced. And if you are as old as me in Cardano, you remember how many Africa projects we had. If we would just had that nod light, there is a major fund coming that will invest in Cardano projects. You will have many, many more builders coming into the space. You will have much more interest of people coming into the space and users looking around it. And this is really what this is about, right? It's I really want to make sure that we're not getting hung up on personnel decisions or on this or that or a detail, right? It's generally, shall we make an investment initiative that uses treasury money to fix some of the liquidity issues, whether that's market making, whether that is the direct VC investment, whether that's all open questions, right? The real question is here, should we address the problem?
And if I can add, If I can add
Go
quickly,
ahead.
I know because, like I mentioned, I've been here since 2017, so I know how distrustful we are of VCs. But then, if that's the case, because they've got their own interest and they could just dump on us, why not build one in-house? There's the funds are there. People are getting a little hung up on that 200 million ADA figure, but even if theoretically it was to pass, and that's saying something. So a lot of people I know are so against it right now. But even if it was to pass, you still have to think about the other 1.3 billion ADA that's there, and what's going to happen to that. So isn't it for the Cardano people to try and build something right in-house rather than constantly chasing for people who are not interested in our ecosystem? I mean, if I would be very happy just doing Waffle Capital if I saw all the VCs were flocking to Cardano, right? I would just, it'd be easy. The job would be done. We'd just be doing our own projects.
And I think just to add this very briefly, because we have seen the comments about the 200 million ADA, it's not set in stone. Look, that's a question we ask ourselves: how much liquidity is needed to have a significant impact on projects? Look, to be honest, we know how big World Mobile Token is right now. Highly likely they might suck up this all by themselves if they need to, because they need to grow. And if we want them to stay here or Book.io, they need significant funding. And I think what's very important is we have Catalyst, sets pre-seed, seed stage. What is coming after it? And the way that we addressed it, that we thought about, we engaged with founders, we talked with a lot of people to come up with a potential solution, which unfortunately was leaked to the community in a very unpolished way, because we wanted to make it more clear. We wanted to solve accountability and implement accountability mechanism in these things, that the community sees, look, this is the framework we thought about, let's put it out there and discuss this potential solution to the liquidity problem. And then let's form our opinion if we want to do it as a community. But it was leaked, so we have to own it, we have to jump on it, and this is why we are here right now.
Okay, yeah. I have a few questions on the budget and how that came about. And I see there was a few comments there about asking some of the Twitter questions. So we'll do on the budget first, and then we'll get to see some questions around Mike's comments on Twitter too. But the budget, where did the 200 million come from? Or I know you said it's not set in stone yet, but there must be some working behind that, why you would request that sum of funds. And there was a 90-10 split. Where did them kind of numbers come from? I think that was sharing 10% of the profits back. I see Navjeet did say about there is a high failure rate with, I suppose, traditional and Web3 companies. So whether the profits will be much or anything like that, we don't know. But back to the 200 million first, and then the 90-10 split. So where the 200 came from? I don't know who. And would you consider a staged investment as well, instead of asking for a smaller amount first, prove the track record, and then look for more?
So you want to take it forward? Go for it.
Yeah, so the 200 million, look, with the current market price, it's around 60 to 70 million, maybe 40 cents, it's 80 million. Like, the question is, how do you want to build a portfolio of startups? And what is a normal seed round? Normally between 2 and 5 million, though you should try to have 20 to 30 projects funded to reduce risks. So that just from a portfolio building perspective, this is how you come up with this number. It's roundabout this number. But as I mentioned, it's not set in stone, though, of course, up for discussion.
So there's been, sorry to jump in, there's been, because we've been talking to a lot of founders and people in the ecosystem, there's been a lot of discussions about, the amount. Of course, you can imagine that that was already a conversation, because what you're seeing is draft number 1. But then I will kind of let everyone know that the lowest that we've heard in terms of suggestion was 50, and then to increase that in tranches. So, for people who were hoping for something tiny, that was not the plan. But that again has been an open discussion, just like the structure of the governance and the conflict of interest part. That is all in discussion and work in progress.
Yeah, and I want to add that I feel there's sometimes a bit confusion because the numbers are so high, right? Like 60 million sounds like a lot, and to a normal human, it is it's a lot of money. It's like you can buy your villa and live for the rest of your life on a beach. But when you build firms or companies or protocols, right, you quickly go into hundreds of millions of dollars. This is, it's not a small project. And the question is, you can say, yeah, but do we need these types of projects in Cardano? Well, if a community size that doesn't want to have $100 million projects in Cardano, that's fine. But I would think, personally, that's sad, because I think Cardano could have projects that dominate global industries. But we gotta think in these sites right now. And the question is, we are very cyclical in crypto, right? And the question is, maybe for the next cycle, what are the deepen projects? What are the AI projects that we want to have that can dominate an industry? And I can just repeat this word: dominating the industry is very expensive. And again, it's what kind of class you want to play in. And I think Cardano plays in the highest class. And I think this is how we want to see it. And and this is also something that I think is very important. It's not always that the best tech wins. It's sometimes that the fastest one wins. And actually, when you look into the history of software and the internet, you often see situations where the dominant player wasn't the best one. It was just the one who executed fastest. And the question is, shall we allow a company of the format, like a Book.io, to find all the liquidity that it needs in Cardano to execute and brings the next, 500,000 millions of users just for that one project, completely crypto non-native users onto Cardano? And yes, how do they finance it? Because the problem that you run in with, if you don't have this arm, if you don't have the foundation or this 3UTxO that does it for the Cardano ecosystem, you might find the other foundations, the other ecosystems come and say, hey, but I can give you a $10 million check right now, plus all the other VCs that are lined up. And again, there's no ultimate answer to that, right? I think this is very important when you listen to that. It's an open-ended thought. There's no decision made. There's nothing in final set in stone. It's just an idea. Hey, can we use the treasury to enable these hyper-growth projects to build on Cardano and to dominate industries by using Cardano? So, yeah.
I think just on the figure, I think even for me and lots of other people, it's the percentage of the treasury that actually is. And at the minute, that would be about 13-14% of the overall treasury, which is the concern. And then is that all sold off to fiat in a quick manner, or how would something like that happen? Because obviously puts a lot of sell pressure on the actual token price, the price of ADA, which, look, we all care about that to some smaller degree, some bigger degree. But on the 10% back to Cardano or back to the treasury, or what way it said about 10% to the community, what way would that work?
Look, let me jump in and ask one question at a time. I think for the sell-off, we are doing right now the research with external entities to figure out what's the best strategy to not impact the price so much. Because there are ways. Over-the-counter deals, for example, there are ways to do it. I think the problem we all see as individuals, not huge blue whales in Cardano, that we always believe I can only go to Binance and sell my ADA there. There are many ways you can do it. There are a lot of opportunities not to affect the price or impact the price at a large scale, though there are ways. And we are doing research. As we mentioned, it's an early league, and this is exactly what we're doing on the side. We're doing our homework to come up with a better and more polished solution to this. I hear the 90-10% split. again, this is something where we have to go into a lot of details about what we create. Is it a foundation? Is it an investment arm? How can we structure it back? What is the best legal structure that it's not directly connected with the treasury, that there is a nonprofit, for example, who takes care of it? A lot of moving parts. Though I would really recommend not to focus so much on these numbers, because they're there to get early feedback and they will change. I think this needs a lot of more time to dive into the structure of it, of the detailed structure of it, which is also not set in stone. So I don't want to waste all the time from everyone and come out in 3 weeks and say, oh, we're doing it this way now. I think it makes no sense to go into the details if the details are not set in stone. I really want to think more about what is the problem, why are we doing it? And I really want to ask the community, if you all believe that we have a lack of liquidity, that we have great tech to be a world-class, world and market dominating protocol as Cardano. Look, if we all believe this, then the question is, should we do it or not? And I think that's the question we should ask ourselves.
I'll jump in quickly just to finish this. Paul, you mentioned the 13%, and that's the one that's not sitting well with your stomach. And if you listen to the problem of the liquidity, well, how far is the community willing to go to solve this problem? And it's an important problem. How far are you willing to go? Is 7% of the treasury? Is it 10%? Like it's an important problem. And those who are not willing to recognize it, well, good luck to you. But how far are you willing to go? So yes, it's big. Yes, the number seems large to any single individual. And we spoke about corporations and so forth. But what we're trying to do here is solve a big problem that we have. And so we do have the ammo to do it. The question is how much, how, 13, 15, 10%, 5%? It's up to the community ultimately. And that was anyways going to go for a vote, right? We as the people who are sitting there in front of you don't have the power to just grab that money, right? So 13, ask yourself deeply, if it's a problem that you recognize, how far would you be willing to go with that treasury to help?
Yeah, look, I fully agree that liquidity within Cardano is an issue, and incentives to bring more liquidity in and fund different developers is an issue there. So I do think the treasury should be used for aspects like that, whether this is this proposal from you guys or something else. And that's why I think conversations like this are important to get people to start thinking about.
The truth is, of course, it matters who does it in the end, but for us, it actually doesn't matter that it's us or not. The most important thing is that this idea lives on, and that somehow it will get executed as best as we could as a community, right? That's the idea. No one is in it for their personal gains also, really. No one's looking for the position. I'd happily give my position if anyone shows me they're more competent than me. Happy to do it.
I'm going to try and start going through some of the individual questions quicker. I'm conscious of your time and everyone watching as well. We've roughly 20 minutes or so left. This one was mentioned as a popular one by the comment by Mike. I think I have it here. Where's it gone on me? So this one here was about, again, this is an older deck. I understand maybe it's not in the latest ones, but a comment about being in compliance with the interim constitution of Cardano. Could you expand on what's meant by that?
Look, the interim constitution is stating that for everything above 1 million ADA you ask of a withdrawal from the Cardano Treasury, you have to have in line audits. You have to set aside a budget for audits, for external or internal. That's already incorporated. If you go even to the leak there, we are already talking about audits. Because, look, we want to be audited if we are the one who are doing it. Look, it has to have transparency in this process, because this is what I believe in it.
Okay. And there was another one from Navjeet just about would the team be going, is there an updated advisor team, or would the team be going full-time? Would there be full-time members if this was funded? I know you said at the minute you're all doing it on your own time and expense and that, but would there be a full-time? I presume there would have to be a full-time team put in place.
Like, first of all, we have to solve the conflict of interest. So there is only one way to do it full time. And then there is the other thing you see even in the early league, because it depends on the volatility of ADA at a certain point of time. It's a question, how big can the team be? And with my own network, I talk to a lot of VCs, also willing to ditch their day job right now to jump over. A lot of people like, look, I'm not taking the risk. But personally, I'm here for Cardano, and I know that even very experienced VC managers, fund managers, are willing to come on board when the funding is secured, because it's part of the game. Though you see that there is even a position open, and we are talking to people in the same moment. Though I'm not saying these 5 people you're seeing might be the end of the team. It might be even get expanded. Try to get the best people on board. That's what we are doing. But sometimes it's very tricky to do it with just an idea.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going through the comments here. I've kind of lost track of comments. If you start asking them again, there's a lot of them there. But just on, so we have the funding. On the stage model, would you be looking at something like that? I know you said the lowest you have looked at is even down to 50 million. Are you looking at that now?
It's on the table. It's definitely on the table. And it's been on the table before, even before the leak. Without naming the names, also, that there's people we talk to also higher up in the ecosystem. And sometimes, you receive that kind of feedback. Although not everyone would want to go for the 50. Some people were keen on the 200 because of the sizes of tickets that we mentioned that happen in other ecosystems. I'll remind everyone again, just because we've been doing this tonight, that Phantom in 2022, Phantom Wallet on Solana raised $109 million. That's just a wallet. That's just a wallet. Now, yes, I'm sure they must be wasting a lot of money. I don't know what happens in their business, and Solana is a different place. We can all agree on that. But when you look at the numbers, yes, you start to wonder, okay, we need to be playing in the league here.
And also playing in the league means, because I would love to address this, because a lot of people were saying, look, we are a marketing game and we want to spend this 200 million on marketing. I want to be very honest, that's not the idea here. Look, I believe startups should do this. Startups should attract users. It's not the VC part who has to do it. I think what the marketing of this fund should be is attract outside co-investors. Invest alongside with us, not take the 200 million ADA and that's it. Look for partners, look for VCs, let them come in. This is what we all have to do. And then use the power of the entity to talk to big centralized exchanges to get listed, that all of these projects get not on the blacklist because they're on Cardano, form partnerships, get out there, because this is what's needed. I know we all emphasize decentralization, but a lot of the liquidity is right now still on centralized exchanges. Unfortunately, I'm not creating the rules of this game, but I'm in it to play it. So we have to follow the rules how they are right now. We can change them over time, but we cannot wait until they're all changed, because then we are left behind. Then we are not world-class anymore, that we are not dominating markets. I think we have to dominate markets and then stick to our values as they are in Cardano and change the game by winning.
Just when you say about Cardano there was a question I've lost in the comments now, but about, will this be targeted at projects outside of Cardano or just Cardano projects? People building on Cardano, or to bring...
Cardano. Just Cardano.
who builds on Cardano. Look, down the road, we discussed this already, and there are a lot of different opinions. It's like, okay, first of all, we are looking into Cardano projects. Down the road, look, do we want to bring other big projects to Cardano? Look, if someone brings us 10 million additional users to Cardano, I would love to ask the community then, should we invest in them? And if they all, yes, let's bring them over, look, why not? But it, again, there I'm emphasizing it should be a Cardano decision then.
Okay. And will the community be involved in the decision process on different projects, or how would that work?
To respond to answer this question, there was a lot of talk about creating something where 3UTxO would do the due diligence, and then eventually the community would have a direct vote on whether funds get allocated or not. And then as we were having this discussion with all the people that were involved, we realized that there's a problem with that. You wouldn't want to publish everything from a startup or someone who's already competing, because they're running out of funds, and there's basically a lot of sensitive information there. So hence Charles talking about midnight. So what we thought of, and that's the latest version, again, up for change, but that was the latest, was that the community would elect representatives on 3UTxO, enough that there would be a majority, enough that if the directors responsible for the Florian and so forth, if they're not acting accordingly, they would have the legal means to remove him. And any other person included. So the community would vote on a large majority of people who would sit on the board, because that way you can ensure that the community is involved and they elect people who they deem competent, but at the same time you're able to preserve some discretion with the projects that we're trying to raise some capital. You don't want to do this out there in the open. And that was the latest version. So for everyone else, this was up for debate again.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for bringing that comment up, because I read it and I think, Hosky, you're damn right, man. Like, this is why this whole thing is a bit of an accident. There should be a much better proposal. And the second comment that you had, maybe Paul bring it up. I think this is the biggest learning. Like, again, I'm just an advisor, so I'm a bit out of this group. But I also think, seeing all this reaction right now, honestly, I wasn't aware that it would be so controversial, because to me it was always quite obvious that solving liquidity is something that everybody wants. But I also think that it would be good from going forward to make it super transparent and have the community actually give their input. And I think, Hosky, it's quite fair when you say, yes, we need an updated deck. Again, it's pretty bad if you get judged on like a draft that you made 6 months ago. I think that's not very nice. But again, that's the situation we're in, and I think it would be pretty great from 3UTxO. Like, that would be my advice to 3UTxO, to be very transparent from now forward, because it's very true. I think a lot of bad feeling is that there was this kind of perception of, oh, there's these guys plotting to take out money of the Cardano Treasury, and it's really it's a misunderstanding so far. It's really just a group thinking of a lot of founders. How do we can fix this liquidity issue? And I think, Hosky, you're right. You're absolutely right. Transparency needs to be taken more serious. I don't know if you guys want to agree or disagree with me, but I think Hosky's right.
For those who actually want to be part of this discussion, I do mean actually, not like a Twitter, right? And that includes you, Hosky. If you want to get involved, you know where to find us. You get in touch, and we can discuss it.
Is there a timeline on the official pitch deck coming out, or when you mentioned that there about people getting involved, is there a specific group that people should reach out, or a medium people should reach out on?
Well, any one of us three, that would be a good start. And again, that is if you're actually motivated to do work, and that means unpaid work, and to work on this in your free time, and to participate, then we would welcome absolutely anybody. In terms of timeline, there was an aim to maybe present at the summit, but of course, as you know, the deadlines and work and working together different time zones, and prolonged discussions, I don't think we'll be able to reach this deadline. I think it'll be for a bit after, but definitely before the end of the year.
Okay. Big Bay, thanks very much for the super chat there too. I'm looking through now. I think we've covered a lot of the main questions. There's still going to be a lot more. I'm still looking through. Anyone with other questions that we haven't covered? I know the specifics.
If you would allow me, for the community who's listening to us, we are probably organizing a Twitter space. It depends with who. It'd probably be Rick McCracken. I think he has agreed, and we are setting up the date and exactly. So within this week, we'll have a Twitter space where all of you can just ask your questions, and we'll be happy to answer them also.
I see here the 90% carry question. I think this is back on the 10% and how that's worked out.
The 90% is not for the people working there. It's to go back to 3UTxO so that it can keep doing what it's doing without having to ask another round of the treasury. So whatever it's able to make, 90% should go back in to continue investing, and 10% should go back to the community.
Here's another one. If you have the experience, why don't you raise capital from external investors? I know you mentioned about in Hong Kong that they would only co-invest with Cardano Foundation. Would they co-invest with 3UTxO as representative?
So let me answer the question that's written here first. The answer is, if I have so much experience as I claim, why don't I raise capital from external investors? No, that's what I'm doing. So Dom Stefanikova, very glad that you asked your question, but so far 3.6 million in. That's on Waffle Capital side. Now, to your question, Paul, that you just asked me, we have been exploring the idea with certain VCs, and yes, the response is obviously overwhelmingly positive. So yes, we would bring them in.
That's good. How would profits actually be determined? Actually, I suppose the first one on this is, when you would be invested in projects, would it be on a token basis or would it be on an equity share in a project? You know, some very early projects offer maybe equity. A lot will offer tokens.
Look, I think that's a good question. I think there is the beauty having an entity who is doing it, because suddenly you can then invest in equity. And I strongly believe, especially if some startups are raising funds on equity and then later do a token, I always ask the question, where goes the value to the equity holder or to the token holder? You have to solve the problem. That's a big question you have to ask yourself. But just quickly answer this question, yes, both is possible. But it depends on a deal-by-deal basis, because this is what VCs are doing. This is what you or what we as a community should do, make an informed decision and think about, okay, what's the best here? Because sometimes there is just equity, but it's a good project. I think Tap Tools is just for equity right now. Still interesting project, I would admit.
Don't drop the alpha, man. Oh, good. I think maybe to find closing words from my side, guys, this is really important, right? Like this is not even a proposal up for vote, right? Like we talk about if you guys had an idea, and I value transparency so much, so I think we'll talk with the if we maybe set up a Discord or something where the community can come in just to have the questions answered and to have it, because again, I was saying that earlier. I think the biggest learning, I don't think there's there's anything wrong with solving the liquidity issue on the Cardano, right? If at all, maybe the process was wrong, maybe the NDAs and the feeling that gave the people that that was a secret thing maybe was wrong. So I think this is a big learning, and for everybody who washed our hat, I just want to say, usually, thank you, guys. The community is always right, because that's the wisdom of the crowd. Gentlemen, at least Emmy, we're coming to the end, right? So see you in Dubai. I know you're.
Question: will the team be in Dubai?
Yes.
I'll be. Yeah.
And there's a panel. In fact, we're organizing a panel discussion at the summit, and the title of the panel is, "Do users bring liquidity, or does liquidity bring users?" So of course it's a circular question, but that's the topic of the panel, and we'll all be there. So see you all there.
And also, just as a thank you so much, Paul, for having us. It really helps us quite a lot to not only stay in front of the community and answer this question, but also that you're offering us this help from you, because look, there are a lot of critical questions flying around on Twitter, and we are more than happy to answer them. I think we are already talking to organize even a Twitter space end of the week, that everyone come up and ask question more directly. Look, that's something we have to do right now. And we are here for the community to try to answer this question. Please, also the community, for some of your questions, we might not have the answers yet, because it is what it is. And though we have to find these answers together as a community. But I will emphasize on the one Simon said, look, are we believing that we have an issue in terms of liquidity in Cardano? If though, yes, let's solve it. And if this leak helped to boost the conversation about it, I'm more than happy. Because before that, no one wanted to talk to me, to be honest. No one wanted to listen. Now everyone suddenly have an opinion and wants to talk about it. But let have us a very constructive discussion about these things, because we have to solve it if it's there. And I believe it's there.
Yes, well, look, it's important that these conversations happen now about liquidity and about governance for Cardano and how things are going to work, because a lot of people talk about it. It's great, Cardano is going to have governance, the community is going to own the treasury, but don't actually think about what that means. That does mean there will be big proposals coming in. The community, myself, everybody out there needs to be aware of these. Myself, hopefully helping educate. I've seen Big Pay and I've seen Fareed there as well, putting out content to try and educate people around that we need to step up and take responsibility of who gets funded. And that includes you guys. It will be us as the community and D-reps and everything that will be voting on this. So I think this kicks the conversation off and gets people thinking more about it, of what governance actually means. Like, it's the first hard fork potentially next week. So we're on that course. And just for you guys, one final one on, we talked a lot about bringing liquidity to Cardano, but will ye be providing liquidity within the ecosystem as well, or just investing in projects?
I think I will take this one. Look, the question is, what is the investment period of this entity? And then the question is, if this entity gets funded, what are you gonna do? You have to ask yourself what you're gonna do with this 200 million ADA. Though, of course, there are already some thoughts around it to take 10% of it low risk into liquidity providing, because it might make sense, just to cover operational costs. Why would you not do it? But again, these are in the making, not final decision made on these things, because there are still, as you mentioned, in the beginning. We are 6 months out. And as you might know, and to even emphasize with some comments, it's like, yes, in 6 months, we would love to answer all your questions and would love to know everything. But now we are not. That's part of the game being a founder, that sometimes you don't have the answers right now. It was leaked. And this is what we're doing here right now, to find these answers to all of the questions. So it's not like that we are not working on it.
And just, you mentioned audits earlier on. Would there be public reports on everything that's happening, or public, not even full audits, but just everything that you guys are investing in as the money comes from the Cardano Treasury? Would that all be public to show what you invested in, how much was invested into different projects?
Yes. I think that's it's a quick answer. Yes, for sure. If you ask me, should we show valuations? That's something different. Should we show in what was invested? Yes, of course.
Okay. I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts while we have people here, or if not, we'll wrap it up. I know you guys are working on the final proposal. When that's done, if it's done before Dubai, you're welcome to come back on and we can have that discussion then, because I think, like I said, not only for discussing your particular proposal, it helps other people that are looking at proposals and helps the community consider more aspects of governance. To everyone who tuned in, thanks very much. Really do appreciate it. Give it a like, share it out, let people know what has happened here. Subscribe if you're new. And guys, I'm going to hand it over to you for some final thoughts.
You want to start, Florian?
I want to say, because I thought when Simon started the closing round, I wanted already to say thank you to you. Look, again, that's very important for us. Do we agree as a Cardano community that we have a lack of liquidity? If so, okay, let's solve the problem. Then what is the solution for it? Is it a new entity formed to invest? And then we have to answer ourselves the question, how much is enough? Is 50 million ADA enough? Is 200 million ADA enough? Or is it not even enough? You know, because the question is, what do we want to achieve as a community? And I think that's my final thought here. And if we are all on the same page of what we want to achieve, then let's go for it.
My closing thoughts that I already started a bit early. I don't know what read me, but I think the big learning really that we have to take serious, if I speak we for 3UTxO, is the community communication. I think it's very important to make people heard more and respect their input. So I definitely think that will change. So guys, just join and use your energy, help us, and let's make Cardano the absolute. Let's go for number one, gentlemen. Let's go for number one.
Yeah, I'll just finish by saying this is a pivotal moment, and I concur with Florian. This think about the liquidity and think about, you know, the one. I mean, now it's done, so everyone's thinking about what's going to happen with the 1.5 billion ADA in Treasury. Have a good think about it, because we are not going to be the last making such proposal with such amounts. Guarantee it. Thank you, Paul, for having us. And thank you for all those who listened to us. And thanks for your questions.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate you reaching out to come on here and face it head on, get these conversations started. One final thing, I've seen some people mention that this is the type of thing that Catalyst should be for. In my opinion, outside of this proposal, whether it's you guys or whether it's someone else, I think the more ways projects can look for funding, the better. Catalyst suits lots of projects, but also, Catalyst can be too long for certain projects to get that competitive advantage or to encourage a project to come over. So having other aspects like that is always a good thing. So guys, thanks for watching. Everyone who tuned in, I appreciate everyone that tuned in and asked questions. If I missed questions, I do apologize. There was a lot happening there, but hopefully we hit on the main points and we can cover this again fairly soon when the guys have more details. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Cheers, guys.